up, guys? Coyote Works here. Well, I am so excited to be heading back out on the trail again. I'm in the beginnings of what will be the Coyote Works 2.0 Jeep, and I'm just heading out for a shakedown run and to run another little piece of the route that we'll be traveling for the upcoming October group overlanding trip. So I just got the new Jeep, so I don't have all of my typical overland type camping gear set up, so it's going to be a little bit different of a camp setup. But one of the worst things about the Jeep fire was just how much gear burned up in that fire. So I've been trying to replace the critical stuff of it, but I had to just kind of go through old boxes and old gear and just cobble together enough stuff to get me through a weekend of exploring out here. But I think we'll have a good time on this trip. All right, I am off the pavement for the first time in the new to me Coyote Works Jeep 2.0. So I'm recording a track. I'm gonna head, I've got about 7 miles to go on this road, and then I'll start getting into some really remote kind of 2-track roads up here. Oh shit, I'm gonna have to, I guess one of the first things I'm gonna have to do is figure out how to turn off that seatbelt alarm. I'm off the pavement and I've gone a couple of miles back in here, and so far I really like the way the Jeep's riding. I put some new tires on it. I went with some Nitto trail grapplers. I went with the E-rated Nitto trail grapplers 285 70/17, so that puts them about 33 inches. I think the Nittos measure out just a little over 33 inches tall, but they seem to be riding good. I'm running them about 37 pounds of pressure right now, which is a little more than I'd normally run, but I don't have a compressor with me since my compressor burned up in the Jeep fire too. So I don't want to air them down too much because I've got quite a bit of highway driving on my way back, but I'm really liking the way she's driving and handling, and I think it's going to be a good backcountry rig out here. One of the things I usually always do when I first pull off the pavement and get onto the rougher roads is I put it in 4-wheel drive and I disconnect the sway bars. And the main reason I do that, I mean, when I get into a little more serious terrain, it's nice to have the extra articulation, but the main thing is it really smooths out the ride on some of these rough roads. So I've got 4-wheel drive on, sway bars disconnected, and man, she's riding like a Cadillac out here. All right, so no vehicle fires yet. And it's getting kind of close to the end of the day. It's about 5 o'clock now, so it gives me about 2.5 hours of light left. I think it's getting dark, completely dark, right around 7:30. So I'm gonna start looking for a place to camp, and tonight I'm bound and determined to roll into camp a little bit early because I'm doing a little bit different of a camp setup, and I want to show you guys in some light. So I'm trying to get out to a spot where there's a couple of dry lake beds, and I'm thinking that right around the edge of one of those dry lake beds should be some good trees. I'd like a few trees to set up my camp in tonight, so stick around, I'll show you guys. I'm going a little bit different camp style tonight. This is perfect. Got an excellent spot over here. I'll be able to set up a little shelter with a block from the wind, some overhead cover. But one thing is, when I had my whole system set up before and now I'm kind of starting over, is I keep figuring out things that I'm forgetting. And one is, I used to always have a whisk broom with me so I could whisk off the back of the Jeep before I opened it up. So I got a little bit of dust on her. haul ass here a little bit to get my camp set up. I don't have much time before dark. The first thing I'm going to do is string up a tarp back here that'll be both a windbreak and cover from the rain. The forecast is calling for a little rain tonight, so I got to get some kind of cover up. This is the DD Hammocks tarp, and I really like it. It's a nice durable tarp. Alright, I strung up a simple tarp. Now, I'm going to get out the old standby army cot. I think this cot is an old wooden army cot, and I think it's circa 1960s. But I've had this thing for years, and when I was digging around trying to get together enough gear for this camping trip, I thought I haven't used this thing in a long time. It'd be good to sleep on this old cot again. So I'm just going simple. I'll have a tarp over my head. The wind's coming from behind me, so hopefully that'll give me a little bit of a windbreak. And this will be my bed. This canvas is still tight on this old cot. It's probably been, oh geez, I don't even know how long since it's been since I used this thing. I think that'll make a pretty good bed for the night. Got a branch I gotta trim out of here. It'll make a good piece of firewood. Okay, that'll be bed for the night. I think that's going to be real comfortable. All right, I'll show you guys the bedroll I made up. Basically, I just made up a bedroll, so I wrapped a pad, a sleeping bag, all inside this British Basha tarp. So it's kind of like an old school bedroll, but with modern materials. So the nice thing about that is now all I have to do is unroll it and my bed's ready. There's my bed. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is get a fire going. So I'm going to dig a little fire pit right here. I'm not going to need a real big fire because it's not cold. I don't need it for the warmth. I just want to do some cooking on it. Alright, got my little Maglock shovel. Just going to dig a little pit right here, and I'll take the dirt from the pit and use it for the backstop or the windbreak. Maybe. This is some hard digging right here. Alright, let's install the grill. This, I like to call Bill's Grill because it was made by a good friend of mine, Bill, who has a Rimrock Outdoors channel. I don't think he's done a video in a long time, but he's sure a solid dude. And this grill, I think Primal Outdoors is using one too, and I'm using one. And this has been just about the handiest thing that I've ever added into my kit. Drive that into the ground, and then here's the grill. And you can adjust the height, spin it around off the fire to work on stuff. It's just a really handy little grill. Alright, oops, let me turn that headlamp off. Alright, so for tonight's dinner, I got a real treat. my good friend Minnow has been canning some elk meat. So I grabbed a jar of that canned elk meat, and then I got an array of vegetables here, and I'm gonna make a super delicious one-pot meal. So I got a celery, cilantro, carrot, a couple of tomatoes, an onion, and a couple of potatoes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop up those potatoes, and I'm gonna get them in a little bit of water and get them boiling over there on the stove, because they're gonna take the longest to cook. So while those potatoes are boiling over there, then I'll process the rest of this. I've also got some garlic powder, some curry powder, and some pepper. And that's pretty much all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna kind of let the ingredients stand on their own. Plus this elk being canned in there is gonna have a nice broth to it. So hopefully that'll be all the flavor we need. And if we want to add a little heat, I've got some red pepper and some Tabasco sauce, so we can toss a little bit of that in. But man, I am starving. Okay, I put a little curry powder and a little garlic salt in the water. And then I'm going to put the potatoes in there. I think I'll also put a little pepper and a little salt. A little pink Himalayan sea salt, a couple of pinches of that. There, we'll get those potatoes cooking. Now I'm going to go process up the rest of the ingredients. I think I kind of like that stick. I'm going to save it there. Alright, I'm also going to go ahead and stick the carrots in there. I got all my vegetables processed up. I got my onions and celery on this plate. I'll put those in next, along with the meat, and then I'll let that cook just a little bit, and then I'll put the cilantro and the tomatoes in last. All right, I'm gonna go in with this canned elk and all the rest of the ingredients. God, I wish you guys could smell this. It smells amazing. Guys, this is what it's all about. I can't tell you how happy I am to be back on the trail and out here. Even if I don't have the optimal setup, I just threw up a tarp shelter, but I've got a cot, a sleeping bag, got a good dinner cooking on the fire. This is really what life is all about. Man, I just had a brutal drive in here, and the new Jeep, or at least new to me, Jeep did really well. Just to give you guys a little more information on what I ended up with, I got a 2017 Jeep Rubicon Recon model. So far, all I've done to the Jeep is I mounted a Rotopax carrier on the spare tire and rigged up a place to carry my shovel on the back, so I don't have gas or my shovel inside the Jeep. And then I put a new set of tires on it. All right, final touch here. Oh yeah, look at that. I think that's going to be delicious. All right, let's see how she is. Oh, damn, that's good. You know, sometimes you just can't beat just throwing a bunch of fresh vegetables and some meat in a pot, a little bit of spices, and just letting all those natural flavors come out. And this is unbelievably good. Just a touch of curry. That curry powder just gives it a really nice little zing. Really nice. That elk meat is nice and tender. But nice work, Minnow, on canning the elk. Well, guys, I think I'm going to get tucked back under my little hooch here and hit the hay. I had a nice meal. I'm really happy with the new Jeep. I'll probably have a little bit of wind on me tonight, but I got a nice warm sleeping bag. The one thing about the gear that I lost in the Jeep fire, I lost two of my Wiggy sleeping bags in there. One was up in my rooftop tent that burned, and then one was inside the Jeep. But the Wiggy's bag that I still have is my 0 degree Wiggy's bag, so it should be plenty warm just sleeping out like this. I took the leftover stew and I put it out there. You guys will see in the morning there's a big open lake bed out there behind me. So I took the stew out there and dumped it, I don't know, about 100 yards out there. So maybe in the morning we'll have some coyotes coming in or something. So I was thinking this evening after I finished dinner that this kind of car camping where I set up a shelter separate from the Jeep and I'm not in the rooftop tent and all that is, you know, this is how I did it for years and years and years for, you know, the first 20 years of my life. It really isn't that bad going this direction. I actually kind of enjoy the ritual of setting up a camp, setting up a hooch and everything. It takes a little more time. Not a lot more time, but you know, I probably spent 45 minutes or so setting all this stuff up, whereas, you know, I'm 10-15 minutes total setup time with my typical Overland setup. But there's other things that I enjoy about this direction too, and it's just being out in the air, feeling the breeze blowing across me at night. So it's actually kind of bringing back some good memories doing this, and even using some of this old gear that's been stored away in the garage from a long time ago. Old Expedition Thermarest. That Thermarest that I'm on tonight is probably 15 years old, and this Wiggy sleeping bag I'm in, I think, is the first Wiggy sleeping bag that I ever got. Just a small little ice chest is all I have. Got a little table set up, and I do have my ready light, which is really handy, but it's actually kind of nice. I enjoy this kind of car camping as well. Most of the time I'm just where the Overland setup with the rooftop tent comes in is when I'm really just hell-bent on exploring and I want to use every bit of my day exploring, and I just wait until the last possible minute at night to set up camp. That's where the rooftop tent and all that gear attached to the rig, the awning, things like that really shine. But this is actually a really neat experience too, doing it this way. And I get a lot of comments from guys on my channel who are, you know, waiting to get set up before they go, and I would say you just grab your basic camping gear and you can still come out here and have a pretty good time. Alright guys, I'm all snugged into my hooch here. It's actually going to be pretty comfortable. I had a good day of exploring and had a good dinner. I love this camp spot in here. I can't wait to check it out in the morning. But for now, that's all for this day, guys. Coyote Works out. I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, guys. It's about 6 o'clock or so in the morning. I'm really stoked about this rain. It was supposed to rain a little bit last night, but it didn't start until this morning. But this will be really nice. Hopefully, if it just holds out, if it just keeps raining a little bit longer, this will be nice for keeping the dust down today. My silky Katana Boy saw burned up in my Jeep fire, but I've still got a silky Big Boy. And actually, this saw is a pretty good wood processor too. Even this dry juniper here, it cuts through pretty nice. Wow, there's just a little bit of a chill in the air this morning, and this is just real typical of a light rain out here in the desert country. The ground's not even wet. Maybe it just knocked the dust down a little bit, but for the most part the ground's still dry, the wood's still dry. You can really hardly even tell that it rained. Well, I had a pretty comfortable night's sleep last night, actually. I was plenty warm, if not even a little bit too warm. But it brought back some good old memories sleeping on this old wooden and canvas cot. I spent a lot of nights on that thing in my earlier years out here car camping. For a long time I had a 1978 Chevy half-ton short wide box, and just had a little bit bigger tires on it, and that's what was my camping rig. I'd throw all my camping gear in the back of it, wrap it up in a tarp, and drive these desert roads out here. God, I don't know how many miles I put on that old Chevy pickup. And back in those days I had this canvas cot here, and I threw it inside a big army duffel bag along with a sleeping bag and a pad of some type, And that was pretty much my camp kit. I'd have a couple of tarps and a cook box and some things real similar to the way I have set up now. I lace up my boots. I'm wearing another pair of Danners today. Danners is about the only kind of boots I wear anymore. I do have one pair of really light hiking Merrells, but really anytime I come out here, I'm probably going to be wearing a pair of Danners. Alright, I got the dishes done from last night. Just waiting for my water to boil so I can make my breakfast and my coffee. The wind's kicking up again. It looks like it might be fixing to rain some more, so I'm gonna finish my Mountain House, one of my favorite Mountain House breakfast meals, a breakfast skillet. I'm gonna eat my breakfast, then I'll start tearing down camp, just because if it starts, it's actually fairly dry now. The breeze has been going for the last hour or so. So things are pretty well dried out, and I want to pack it up while it's dry if I can. Well, I'm actually really pleased with how the Coyote Works 2.0 Jeep has done on this first trip. I've pretty much put it through everything that I will put a vehicle through on a normal trip, and I really like the way it rides. The suspension in it seems like it's tuned or set up just right. Well, that's Central Oregon for you, just like that. The sun's back out. Got my bedroll rolled up. Really all I have left to do is pull down this tarp, throw a couple of miscellaneous pieces of gear in the vehicle, break down my table, and I'm good to go. So I got about 10 more minutes before I'm out of camp. So as I came down into this lake bed last night where I camped, I passed another little road that looked like it went off into some interesting country. So it's not very far. So this morning I'm going to run up and run down that road. It was pretty bouldery at the beginning, but I thought I'd run up and check it out, see if it's passable, number one, and number two, if it is, see if it goes back into some interesting stuff. The new Jeep's bringing me luck already. I'm standing here in the middle of a foundation. This is a new one that I've never found before. Just checking it out. This is a really, really old one. I haven't found any glass around here, but there's numerous cans, and they're all the really old style tin cans with the lead solder in them. So this is pretty cool. I was just driving along and I saw something that looked like an old piece of metal out in the sagebrush, and I walked out here to look, started finding cans and started walking around, and eventually came to this foundation. This is actually pretty decent size for an old homestead foundation. We're gonna go over here. I saw some stacks of rock over here we're gonna go check out. Just found the, I'm pretty sure this was the main building here. The floor's still in it. Looks like it was an L-shaped foundation. Pretty good sized building, actually. Pretty crazy these guys lived out here in the middle of the scrub. It looks like this one didn't actually burn. Looks like this one just collapsed and degraded away. There's still some of the boards here, but a lot of them are gone. Oh wow, all at once the nice little downpour's coming. Actually, this will be really nice. It'll keep the dust down for the last of my trip out of here, but I'm gonna keep rolling back towards my exit out of here. It's getting kind of late in the afternoon, and I got to get my Jeep all washed up because tomorrow it's going in to get a rack installed, and hopefully tomorrow it'll get the roof rack, rooftop tent, and awning all installed. Well, I'm back on the gravel, and man, this Jeep is handling these washboards awesome. This is a big wide gravel road, but it gets pretty washboardy. It gets a lot of traffic on it. Man, I can't believe how smooth this thing is across the washboards. I really like the suspension on this.